All right, I'm cooking my dinners, so the oven's on. Uh, it is the 4th of July, so there are fireworks going off in the background. My camera is doing like a weird thing because it doesn't like, I don't know. Just napkin you and see if that works. Did I help at all? I turned off the kitchen light to make it more aesthetic. But I don't know, I'm so grainy on this thing. It didn't used to be like that. Hold on. Maybe it's like a setting. I don't care enough. I'll just look grainy. Anyways, let's start with some. It's nighttime. I should probably not be whistling, but is it a whistle? Kind of, sort of. I have my tea, so especially with all the air pollution going on today, I'm gonna need my tea. And I've got my purification right here. And I've instructed. Yes, I won't share that part. Anyways, I did write down in my handy dandy notebook what ghost stories we're going to be saying today. So today we are going to be talking about the first ones I remember, and that would be the ghost that we used to call George, who anytime anything spooky happened in a place we lived in, we would say, George, knock it off. And we called our ghost George. I'm not sure if it was the same ghost or if my mom was just renaming different ghosts George because she doesn't have the ability to see spirits like my paternal line does, so she can sense them, but she can't decipher what they are, so they are just George all around. And then there's the old woman in the bed, and then the hallway ghost and the dishes falling ghost. So we'll talk about those ones in this video. There's going to be a multi-series one of the family house ghosts because there's just so much. There's so many because they were bound to the house. So it was just from when we started living there until we left, with multiple cousins seeing the same ghosts, having different experiences with those ghosts. And so that'll be multi-series. I don't know if I'll sit down and record each one all together or individually. We'll see how this goes. But we're already 3.5 minutes in, so let's get to the stories. So George originally started with my sister, my eldest sister. She is 5 years older than me. And she, as a little girl, would go to the apartment closet. And this closet had a lock on the outside of it. And they all wondered why there was a lock on the outside of the closet. But so she would sit in front of the open door of the closet and she would have conversations. And they'd be like, what is going on? And they'd be like, honey, who are you talking to? I don't think they said honey. They said her name, but like, for the purposes of privacy, I'm just going to say honey. Who are you talking to? And she'd be like, George. So they're like, oh. I breathed out. That's why the light flickered. But they were like, oh no, our kid's talking to somebody. And so they never left her alone with the closet again. And they always kept it locked after that. But after that, my mom would just call every spirit she felt George. George knocked something down again. George did this. George did that. So that's the story of George. I don't think I ever met George per se. I don't remember if I ever did. Probably because it wasn't George. It was probably different ghosts. It was just my mom didn't know any better, so she was just calling them all George. But I did meet the next ghost, which is the old woman in the bed. So we had moved from Albuquerque to California, and we stayed in this like studio apartment thing that was on a lot with a lot of other studio apartment things in like Monterey Park. And this studio apartment, my mom bought the furniture from the previous occupant, who she later found out died in the bed that she bought. So it was fine when we were children. There wasn't really any incidents. But when my eldest sister got older and hit her teens and we moved to, I feel like it didn't start happening until we moved to like right across from my elementary school. So like maybe 5, 6 years after we initially bought the bed, that's when it happened, because she hit the age that her daughter was when she was having beef with her. So the old lady ghost that was attached to the bed saw my eldest sister as her daughter, because she was about the same age, and she started attacking her in her sleep. Like my sister would wake up, she'd have like bruises around her neck. She was just being like attacked physically by this old woman. And my mom cut onions in half and she put them around the bed. Later my sister was like, that just trapped the ghost in the bed with me. That didn't do anything. But I think she thought it would scare the ghost away. I don't know. Ultimately she had to just get a new mattress for my sister, and then it subsided. But like, I was sleeping in the bed next to her and I was perfectly fine. But I also have insomnia, so I vaguely remember her tossing and turning, but like, there's a lot of things going on. I zoned out a lot of stuff, and I was like, good luck to you, I guess. I wasn't sensing anything, but that was probably because I was sensing everything, and so I didn't, because that house had ghosts in it too. So that house that ghost became active in had either one or two ghosts. There was a hallway ghost. So the room we stayed in had 2 doorways, one towards the kitchen, one towards this hallway. And that hallway also had my second sister's bedroom and my mom's bedroom. And that hallway, I just remember it feeling dark and dangerous and scary. It was not a very long hallway and it was carpeted, but like, I did not like it. And my dog at that time, who was a black Labrador, she used to sleep, and so did the other dog. They used to sleep in the hallway by our doors. And so it was kind of like guarding. And then, but when they weren't there, it was very this doomy feeling. And so I don't know if it was just a ghost that was in the hallway or a ghost that was called to the area, but I didn't like that hallway. And then there was a kitchen ghost that kind of was there. I vaguely remember dreams of that ghost in my dreams. But during that time, I had a lot of chase dreams and zombie dreams and running away from bad people dreams. So it's difficult to tell, but that I remember one day I was like, I had just walked out of the kitchen or I was doing something, and I heard all these pots and pans falling and crashing into the kitchen. So I ran into the kitchen to see if there was a big old mess. Nothing. Everything was still in their place. And I was like, what was that? But it didn't happen again. I think it happened one more time, but someone else heard it. But so, and then we had like a little area my mom had us praying at every day. Every morning, every night, we said our little prayers there, but I was raised Catholic. But anyway, so those were the beginner ghosts. There's not too much, because I think at that time, like I said, there was a lot of things going on. And so I was sensitive, but I was still pretty young. in that house, I was going to 4th and 5th grade, and so I hadn't quite developed a rapport with the spirits yet, so I didn't really talk to them much. I mostly just ignored them, but those were the main ones in my childhood, from like just living with my mom, because the family house ghosts were their own thing, because my parents are separated, so my mom had her place and my dad had the family house that he stayed in with his sister and her children and his brother and the 2 great aunts, and there was a lot of people in that house. It was a really big house. It was on half an acre, I think. But so there's gonna be a multi-part for all of those ghosts. But so yeah, so this is the starter video. It's pretty simple, nothing too crazy. Even though the second ghost may seem crazy, that ghost is pretty mild compared to the other ghosts. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I'm gonna enjoy telling this. I'll try to post regularly, but we'll see when I can make these videos for you. It might not always be this aesthetic. It might just be in the daytime too, but this is when I had time to do it. So bye.